Hey everyone, this is Andrew with another video from Mantis 3D Printer. Today we'll be continuing our series on sketch constraints with the curvature, symmetry, and equal tools. So we'll start out as always by hitting the Create Sketch button and then clicking on the top plane here. And then click on our top button on the view cube to take a look at our sketch plane. So we'll start out with the Curvature Tool. What I'm going to do is just draw one line here that snaps horizontal and then one line at a bit of an angle here. And then I'm going to select both of those and fix them in place. So essentially what the Curvature Tool is for, you probably won't be using it too much if you're just getting into 3D modeling, and especially if you're using it for 3D printing. It's used largely when you're doing CNC machining and you need to have your curves line up with the commands that that machine uses. So what it's used for, it only applies to splines, is that you'll make a spline, say between these 2 points here. And what the Curvature Tool will do is make it so that this is both tangent and follows what's known as G2 symmetry, which is a system that allows you to have a G2 type of curve, which is used in CNC machining and is beyond the scope of these videos. But needless to say, you probably won't be using this, but it's a good thing to have a grasp of, if for no other reason than allowing you to create these complex curves without having to make multiple tangent arcs and setting them equal and dimensioning them. It's a very simple way of doing this. You can also do the same thing if your spline has more points. Say we draw a spline out here that connects in, and we hit the check mark to finish. If we use the Curvature Tool, we can still make it so that it will fit with those lines and follow that proper trajectory. So we'll delete these and then move on to the Symmetry Tool. So symmetry is essentially something that allows you to have 2 points or objects or features be set symmetrical across a line. So you can't set them symmetrical across a point, you have to set them across a line. So we'll draw a line here, then I'll use our midpoint tool to put this line midpointed to that origin, and then I'll click on it and hit X to turn it into a construction line. So I'll show you a few different things. We'll start by hitting C and drawing a couple of circles. Then we'll hit L and draw a couple of lines. I'll draw a couple more lines for something else. And then we'll also use our point tool and just put a couple of points here. And delete this second line. So what symmetry will do is if we set it here, you'll notice that those two pop into symmetry with each other. They're both vertically symmetrical and symmetrical across this way. Essentially what this is doing is creating a mirror between these two. You'll also notice that they don't have to be the same size because I set the point symmetrical. So here I'll do the same thing on these lines. I'll select those 3. The order that you select them does matter. So the first 2 that you select will be the points that are being made symmetrical, and then the third one needs to be a line, which is your symmetry line. So now these points are symmetrical, although the lines themselves are not. So now on these lines down here, I can select them and do symmetry again, and the lines themselves are actually symmetrical. And same thing on these points down here. Just create symmetry around it. This can be very handy if, say, you're drawing a line and you once again midpoint that to the center, and then you're drawing 2 boxes around the outside here. So I'll just throw some quick boxes out. We'll use our perpendicular tool to rein these back in. And then I'm going to delete this parallel constraint and make this horizontal vertical, so it's not referencing anything else. It's actually, sorry, it's perpendicular to this line here. So now we have one box here. We can set this perpendicular, and now we have a second box. What we can do is we can select these 3 lines, do symmetry, and then we can do these 3 lines and get symmetry. And now our box is symmetrical across it both ways. You can use the one from our last video, which is the Collinear Tool. We want to make these line up here. And now we have 2 completely identical boxes on opposite sides of this line. So it brings us to our last one, which is the equal. So essentially what this will do is this will make the primary dimension of anything equal. So if I have two circles and I select them and set them equal, they become the same size. If I have two lines and I make them equal, they'll become the same length. If I have two arcs and I set them equal, you can see that they become the same radius. So essentially what the equal tool will make equal is whatever the primary dimension that gets created. So if I click on this circle, it's going to make a diameter. So what that means is that equal will make the diameter consistent across both these two. If I hit D for dimension and click on a line, it'll make the length the same. So equal will affect the length. And on an arc, if I hit D for dimension again and click here, it will make this dimension similar. And you'll notice that if I click here and add a reference dimension, they have the same radius. It may not look like it because they're different sizes, but they are the same radius. So that's the equal, curvature, and symmetry tool. That's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see future videos from Mantis 3D Printer, including more videos in the Sketch Constraints series. Thank you.